might be wondering why our son James, who just turned 4, is in a yellow hazmat suit. It's not a hazmat suit, it's a rain suit. My brilliant wife has come to terms with the fact that we live on a farm and that our children need to play outside, and that there are 2 very wet, rainy seasons of the year that they could either get soaking wet or not be able to play outside. And to prolong their ability to play outside, she got them all rain suits. So James wanted yellow, so it'll double as a suit if he ever starts removing asbestos or dealing with nuclear fallout. So that's convenient. So the coolest thing, I had a meeting with my spiritual director last week. We try and meet once a month. And for my 2021 goals, each of the goals is supposed to have accountability built into it. Like, well, who's going to hold you accountable for growing in this way in this year? Otherwise, you don't end up doing it usually. There were several that it was like, I don't know. And so my homework for this month was to really pray and make a good game plan for who that was going to be. And we had a really beautiful conversation about just kind of the gift it would be to my marriage if some of these particular items were things that I checked in with Stephanie every week. And so Father asked me to come up with 4 questions that I would have Stephanie ask me every week on Sunday night. And so last night came around and I had worked this weekend and been traveling and completely forgot about it. And praise God, we were saying goodnight and Stephanie said, oh, before we can go to bed, I have to ask you 4 questions. I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. So we talked, and she had come up with a few questions for me to ask her every Sunday night as well, just on some areas that she really feels called to grow in right now too. And it was the most amazing conversation we've had in weeks. If you're married, if you're engaged, if you're very seriously dating, if you have a friend that you're really trying to be in an intentional friendship with, what are 4 questions, or 3 or 2 or 1, however many questions that you want them to ask you every single week? Just for example, a couple of my questions are, I'm trying to diet very intentionally right now, and tie it to some mortification during Lent. And so it's really helpful to have somebody ask, how did that go this week? What were the highs? What were the lows? What were the challenges? Another question that we ought to be asking each other every day is we try and do a check-in every night. Just highs and lows from the day, things we need to be thinking about, things we need to be praying about, and we kind of suck at doing that. So one of my 4 questions is, how did our nightly check-ins go this week? And then Stephanie has a few areas too that she's really feeling called to grow in. So I asked her about those, and again, it just made for such a beautiful conversation. God's always calling us to be growing in specific ways if we're willing to listen. And so it's really helpful for that growth to have accountability. That was kind of the motivation, but it also is just an incredible gift to strengthening a relationship, to be vulnerable in that way and invite people into sharing in our growth and in in what the Lord's doing in our lives. So cannot recommend that highly enough.